Denise Roche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to take the first call for the Greens on this, the final reading of the Employment Standards Legislation Bill, which has now been split into 5 different separate pieces of legislation. So today is a very rare day in politics. A lot of time in this House we focus on the worthwhile but actually quite mundane type of work. We make incremental changes. We change things bit by bit, shifting things and trying to make things better. But today is a day where we actually stand united in the House to introduce real change that will make a difference in the lives of hundreds of thousands of workers across New Zealand. But make no mistake, Mr. Speaker, this is only the start of a campaign for fair pay and decent conditions across New Zealand. Yes, we've dragged National kicking and screaming to outlaw zero-hour contracts, but there are more battles to fight. This victory to end zero-hour contracts was won by 3 main factors: the leadership shown by ordinary people through the union movement, the democratic dividend caused by MMP and through the Select Committee process, and last but not least, the fundamental decency of New Zealand people and the fact that we all believe in a fair go. And I salute the coalition of people that got us here. A coalition led by ordinary working people through the union movement that has led to this point where we are banning zero-hour contracts. And I'd like to acknowledge Unite Union for leading the campaign and making those massive changes through bargaining in the restaurant sector. I'd like to acknowledge the other unions that participated as well: First Union, E2, NZNO, PSA, and of course, the NZ Council of Trade Unions, as well as countless other people who had the bravery to stand up, tell their stories, and lobby for change. The struggle is never easy, but when we get a day like today, it's definitely worth it. The story here, sir, is a story typical of New Zealand politics. It's the story of the community driving change. There has always been power in the union movement. Since the inception of the union movement with the Tolpuddle martyrs through to this campaign for zero-hour contracts, people have mobilised in this country to make change. Whether it was to introduce the 8-hour working day, to abolish child labour, or to make New Zealand nuclear free, ordinary men and women have made those changes and fought for a better place. And we have been proud as Greens to stand alongside and support the union movement in the struggle for social justice. We've supported unions, and our MPs have sponsored legislation like abolishing youth rates under the last Labor government. And we will continue to support unions today in the fight for dignity at work and fair pay. While unions are responsible for creating the public pressure in this victory, it's MMP that saved us from the government's legislation that would have seen the sanctioning of zero-hour contracts. I've had my fair share of disagreements with Mr. Dunn, but I applaud him for digging in. And I also praise the Māori Party for standing up for their principles and forcing National to accept many of the changes that we proposed, along with Labour's Ian Lees-Galloway and New Zealand First, during the Select Committee process that were outlined in the Minority Report. And while we celebrate the success we've all won today, we still have a long way to go. We've outlawed zero-hour contracts, but the reality is there's still a lot that we have to do around insecure work. And the 2014 CTU report, Under Pressure, outlined the sad reality that we have over 635,000 people in insecure work, 95,000 workers with no usual work time, 61,000 that was 95,000 workers with no usual work time, 61,000 with no written employment agreement, 573,000 workers earning less than the living wage, and almost 250,000 Kiwi people saying that they've experienced discrimination, harassment or bullying at work. And that same report outlined 5 recommendations to fix it. Stronger legal protections to prevent insecure work, improved income support mechanism for insecure workers, support for the living wage, government procurement to promote decent work, and union campaigns and bargaining to get secure work. Now, we've made some progress on the first one, but there's lots and lots that we have to do, and in fact, we've gone backwards in the last 7 years in some of the other areas. Yes, we applaud National's back down on this bill, but let's not kid ourselves about the nature of this government. Under the Key government, National has passed legislation that's made it harder for unions to organise, made it harder for working people. And let's not forget the Hobbit Bill, written for Hollywood executives to target unionising in the film industry. The Health and Safety Reform Bill that classified worm farms as higher risk than dairy farms. And of course, the Employment Relations Amendment Bill that took away tea breaks and absolutely weakened the ability for working people to organise and for their unions to bargain. This, combined with the fact that the highest third of our population have seen their pay rates increase by 8 times as much as the lowest third, makes me cynical about where National's heart truly lies when it comes to ordinary working people. But I'm always willing to keep an open mind. I hope that the passage of these bills is the start of a genuine program of engagement by National to actually serve the interest, the best interest of New Zealanders, all New Zealanders, not just their rich mates. I think I'll start to close off now by again paying tribute to the courage and the conviction and the hard work of the hundreds of thousands of ordinary people who've made the success possible. And I think we need to remember that whatever law we pass, even this one, it's not a panacea. Exploitative bosses will continue to exploit. Yes, in this legislation we have increased fines in the Wages Protection Act bit. However, those fines depend on, firstly, investigation, and then secondly, court action. And individual working people will find that very hard to pursue. Vulnerable working people on their own in their workplaces find it hard to access that. The only protection that working people can rely on consistently is their unions. If we want to build fairness in the workplace, we need them. If we do believe in fairness, we need them. And I encourage every New Zealander to get behind the unions in their workplaces, because it does and it will make a difference. We can celebrate today, sir, but we've got a lot more to do. But I commend this bill to the House.